What's up, everybody? Welcome into another YouTube live show. We are keeping the party going after last night. A lot going on today. In fact, I want to start today's show with a message from our fearless leader, Commissioner of the Big 12, Brett Yormark. I'm going to read you the entire press release sent out by the Big 12 through Brett Yormark today about Colorado officially becoming a member of the Big 12 Conference, which it is now officially official. This was the statement from Brett Yormark. The entire press release, once again, that was sent out by the Big 12, came to my email, in my inbox, quote, "They're back." That's it. That's it, everybody. That was the press release from Brett Yormark today to announce that Colorado is officially back in the Big 12. It was a very swift board meeting. There was nothing fancy about it really at all. Colorado came in, said right away, hey, here it is. We're making the move. And it was a unanimous vote, as was to be expected. So party continues. Now, here's the deal tonight, guys. I'm going to try my best. I have a chat sheet up here where I'm going to try and type out some of these chats as they come in from you guys so that I can keep tabs on them, because last night it got wonky. All of a sudden, I couldn't see some of the super chats that had come in because it was moving so fast. I even had somebody offering to help and like screenshot them and send them to me on Twitter. So honestly, if somebody does want to do that, that would be great. But I will try to write some of these down as well. Just like copy paste here, right? I can do a little copy paste. That may slow me down a little bit on the show, but I want to make sure that everybody gets their money's worth out of this, and we can all just enjoy this freaking party, man, because it has been a party. We continue to party today on Twitter. It has been great, and I would say it was really punctuated by that Brett Yormark press release, which was just a boss move, from him. Of course, a lot of the speculation now will turn to what happens next, who is coming with Colorado to the Big 12, because it has been well established the league would like to get to at least 14. It seems like there's probably some wiggle room for 16, depending on how good the candidates actually are. But we have a lot of reporting now on we know what the second tier is for the Big 12. That's UConn. We have a lot of reporting now on what even a third tier is for the Big 12 potentially. So much to come. And we also have to wait and see what the hell happens with the Pac-12. They've had what I would imagine is like an emergency meeting. They've had a meeting today, or perhaps are having a meeting right now. They have to get their ducks in a row. Do they go the expansion route? But that now is very complicated, right? Like there are so many tentacles to this. It's very complicated for the Pac-12 to expand because the top candidate is San Diego State. They already screwed up and missed the deadline. That was, of course, the end of the month. That was June 30th, right before July. So San Diego State has been doing that weird song and dance with the Mountain West. And the exit fee is now $34 million. Like nobody involved there can really pay that. So like what is going to happen here with the Pac-12? What is George Kliavkoff's plan? There are details everywhere that are fascinating. I'm going to start you off with this. Like, one of the points that I've been trying to drive home, I have never sat here and said that I think all these Pac-12 schools are just really clamoring to go to the Big 12. Like they would just love to associate themselves with the Big 12. It's always been, I think George Kliavkoff is the real con man here, who's always been making dumb statements, untrue, chasing down stupid leads like UCLA, going through the political system to try and get them to stay in the conference, right? His focus has always been in the wrong place, and he's just been misleading people the whole time. Dennis Dodd put in his story that there are rumors that George Kliavkoff initially asked for $500 million on this TV deal when it first started, which would be $50 million per team. And that was without USC and UCLA. That is incompetence. I understand you want to set the bar high, and to negotiate, you're going to set it high, but that is so unreasonably high. You're creating an aura of unreasonable expectations that have clearly just plagued this league and followed it for a long time. Set the tone. I mean, when we first started hearing those rumors way back when, I was thinking more like in the $40 million range. And even that seems silly, but $50 million, George Kliavkoff, my God. So that's the problem. You don't have a lot of confidence in his leadership right now. And Colorado obviously is the first to officially jump ship. But what happens now with Arizona? What happens with Washington? Is Oregon suddenly going to become an outside possibility? And then, of course, you have Arizona State and Utah. Can the Big 12 really create a sense of urgency here to get somebody else to jump in or is it going to stick with just Colorado for right now, and then the Big 12 has to move on to UConn? So that's what we're going to cover. You guys know what's happening. You guys know what's coming. I've got details from all of the stories that are out there. Pete Thamel, Ross Dellinger. I actually may not have even made it through The Athletic when I was compiling my notes here, but CBS Sports. We've got so many stories to parse some details from. I will weave them in along with your questions or comments as always. And look, most of you seem to have already figured this out. You know the deal, but under the chat box where it says chat, you can click the $sign, attach a donation to your question or comment. That is how you get your voice heard on the chat or on the show here tonight, and support the work that I'm doing to bring you Big 12 and conference realignment content on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. The last 2 days going live once again here tonight. We start the proceedings with Isaiah. What's up, Isaiah? Isaiah says, bring me Oregon and I won't ask for anything ever again. Come on, Yormark. Yes, Isaiah, you lead me into one of my favorite pieces of today. Popped into my head when I saw someone saying, like, man, we got to build Yormark a statue or something. I kept seeing that. And someone also threw out the idea of, hey, let's go ahead and name a truck stop after Brett Yormark. Of course, we are the truck stop conference here in Big 12 country. And I said, look, if Brett Yormark lands Oregon and Washington, we need to Buc-ee's will become Yormarks. We'll just rename the entire chain. Buc-ee's will become Yormarks. So if someone could tweet that at Buc-ee's, I would appreciate it. I should have tagged them in my initial tweet when I put that out there. But I think officially it needs to just change the name, turn it all over. We will memorialize Brett Yormark in the only way that this little old truck stop conference full of hillbillies can do. That's the only way we can actually get it done. D Nooms, what's up, D Nooms? D Nooms, thank you for your support. He says if they don't plan on being around in the next media cycle, what do Oregon and Washington bring to the table? They bring you a lot of credibility. They bring you the death of the Pac-12, and they bring you one step closer to being the third best conference out there. That's what it does. You are correct. I mean, it seems inevitable that at some point they would get to the Big Ten, and they would certainly just be sitting there waiting. But what a boost of credibility in the short term for what Brett Yormark is doing, and what a wave of momentum that would give to the conference for right now. I think people get stuck thinking a little bit too practically, a little bit too in a vacuum about this sort of thing. We've seen it with Colorado, whereas some of the Pac-12 folks would say, okay, so you got Colorado. They've been a terrible football program, a mediocre basketball program. What are you really getting? What does it matter? No, this is all symbolic, and it's destabilizing. And it is a crack in the armor for George Kliavkoff when there's already plenty of stuff starting to break and water starting to spill in. That's another big one there. So I would file that under the same category. That's very symbolic, man. If you pull the two biggest brands out there, that was a thing that was thrown in the Big 12's face for such a long time. Hey, the Pac-12 has bigger brands left still with Oregon and Washington. You go get those two. You go get those two, man. All of a sudden, that is a massive win. We were sitting here talking about, John Cantona was floating Fresno State for the longest time for the Big 12. And if you roll up there and grab Oregon and Washington, I mean, my God. Symbolic, strength, power as a conference, even if they are to leave then again at some point, that will really give you a lot of collateral to work with right now. Snake. What's up, Snake? Snake says, I just love that USF isn't being mentioned. Snake getting in there with a nice South Florida shot. Very good, Snake. I won't stop you from doing that. Will, what's up, Will? Will Bowden in the house tonight. And as you can tell, guys, I'm trying to move through these a little bit quicker today to avoid what happened yesterday. Will says, it's astounding that the rest of the Pac-9 schools can't read the writing on the wall yet. CU was smart enough to take the guaranteed money and stability. Yeah, it's interesting that Arizona seems to still be in kind of a holding pattern here. I am not, just to be completely honest, I am not gaining any sense of urgency necessarily out of Arizona right now. I saw that Jason Scheer tweeted at one point today, his wording, I believe, is not right now in terms of Arizona leaving, in response to somebody who was asking about it. Robert Robbins seems really content to just sit around and wait. Seems really, really content to sit around and wait right now for an actual deal, whether or not that is coming or not from George Kliavkoff. That is the thing. I'm just not sure that a full deal is really coming, man. I mean, this is again a guy that we're seeing now rumors have set the bidding at $500 million, $50 million per team, a ridiculous, outrageous number, who has misled his presidents on the timeline time and time again. I just don't see it. I don't see it, at least a real comparable deal to the Big 12 coming. Although we do have, in one of the gems from today, from John Wilner's story. Now, it's not him saying this. It is a quote from a source, but the source says the Pac-12 should beat the Big 12's number if they play it right, a source said. I mean, come on, dude. What the hell is that? We're still going with that. These Pac-12 sources are still telling these guys the same line of like, it's going to be a layup, which we saw time and time again from Canzano. Like, get out of here. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think Colorado is smart. I still think there's a pretty good chance Arizona is going to come around to that same conclusion at some point in time. You know, we're seeing the Brett McMurphy story now where he basically laid it out, and it was on Twitter too, just his tweet, like, hey, the Big 12 is going to chase the four corners, kick the tires on Washington, Oregon, see what happens there. If they don't get that, they're going to UConn. And then he also threw out San Diego State, UNLV, and Memphis as other possibilities there, which I kind of hate. I mean, to be honest, and nothing against those schools. San Diego State probably doesn't belong in that. I didn't like that the Memphis UNLV piece came in there because I just don't like you're in a position of strength right now. You have all this momentum. You don't need to be bringing second tier group of five programs along for the ride, even like being mentioned in that story. I just don't love it, man. And I'm sorry. And I know that'll piss some people off, but I don't care. I'm sorry. I don't love that right now. The Big 12 is in a position of strength and power. Not a huge fan. Not a huge fan of that being a piece of it. Christian, what's up, Christian? Christian says, should I feel guilty that I'm more excited about the Pac collapse than I am about aliens being real? It's funny. I was having a conversation, Christian, in the office with somebody about that earlier today, where I was like, man, aliens apparently are real and like nobody cares. Now, obviously, in our world, that's about the Pac-12 saga here and what's going on with conference realignment. I don't know that that's exactly what it is for everybody else, but point being, everybody has a lot going on. Everybody has a lot going on. So it's hard to be concerned with the aliens here. All right. Do the aliens know about Colorado football? Have the aliens seen Coach Prime? All right. That's an important question here. Have the aliens seen Coach Prime? I would profess to you, Coach Prime leading the Buffaloes in a battle this season is more intriguing than alien life. I'm sorry. And my apologies to my guy, Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 on that front. But Tom, I'm a little more interested in Colorado here at the moment. McMuffin, what's up, McMuffin? McMuffin says, I respect John Wilner. He wrote a doozy of an article today. Same talking points, same messaging. Yes, he kind of did. A lot of it, though, is still through the lens of sourcing. He wrote 2 articles today, and I have pulled a bunch of different notes from it. I mean, the worst thing was that the Pac-12 should beat the Big 12's numbers if they play it right. A source says, I mean, that's just BS at this point. Like, just get out of here with that. They can say all they want, and we saw in multiple places, even Pete Thamel kind of wrote this. It's not like Colorado impacts this from a huge standpoint financially in terms of this deal, but it does. Again, it's all about more the symbolic nature of this. Like, what leverage does the Pac-12 have right now to go to these TV networks and say, hey, give us this number that's going to be similar to the Big 12 and give us, 60 to 70% linear? What leverage do they have for that right now? Whoever their partners are can look at them now and be like, look, we know you're in a tough spot. You need this. You need it now. You need it fast. You need stability. You need to get this done so nobody else jumps. We can undercut you because you need it so desperately. They're losing leverage with Colorado leaving, and they're also losing good faith from the people that are still around. So just get the hell out of here with any idea that this deal is going to be what the Big 12 has. I just can't believe that those quotes are still coming. The rest, I thought Wilner, I mean, it's been pretty similar. I thought Wilner's take was pretty similar to what his has been the whole time. Relatively fair with a little bit of a Pac-12 slant. That's kind of what I took on it. And the Pac-12 slant right now is still going to be, it's very obvious. We all saw it coming. Colorado didn't really provide that much value at all. Who knows about Dion? He may not even stick around, even if he's good. And it's not just tangibly that much that you're losing here. So it's going to continue to be what they say. San Diego State. And look, I'll be honest. Pete Thamel kind of made the point, like San Diego State really would be pretty close to Colorado in terms of their value. And I would say so once again in a vacuum. But again, there are complicating factors there. If you're going to get San Diego State in there in 2024, someone's got to pay $34 million. Nobody in the Pac-12 has that money. Washington State has huge money issues. Washington has a $5.8 million deficit in their athletic department this year, and it's supposed to be $7.8 next year. That was in the Seattle Times just a month ago. So that's a part of why they're listening to the Big 12 right now, because the Big 12 offers stable money, and that is not what the Pac-12 can offer. Zesty's Retro and Games, Oregon and Washington are in meetings with the Big 12 right now. I'm not sure specifically what you're referencing there, Zesty's Retro and Games. I think maybe MHV3ER. I did see a tweet from him about that earlier today. But I don't look, again, we've had that conversation with him before. I enjoy him. Sometimes I feel like the stuff there is a little bit of a stretch. I would just say use caution with that. Be careful. But I do think everybody there, one of the articles today, I think from McMurphy said like virtually every school in the Pac-12 at this point has had conversations with the Big 12. So yes, I do believe that those conversations have happened. The word on the street seems to be Washington is more receptive to it than Oregon right now. And there would probably need to be a ton of massaging on Oregon there. And the other element at play here, of course, is going to be what happens with the Big Ten. And I think that is very intriguing because the Big Ten clearly did not want blood on their hands to be the league that took down the Pac-12. But now that's kind of out of the picture. The Big 12 started this. Colorado started this. They would just be coming in and cleaning up some of the scraps, so to speak, even though it's not a perfect analogy. But somebody else at least started the thing bleeding. They would not be accused of like completely coming in and just clobbering it. So somebody else got their shot in between them taking USC, UCLA, and potentially Washington, Oregon. Washington, Oregon now would be more desperate. I'm sure they would be more willing to take a lower share to get into the Big Ten right now because they just know they need a life raft. So that situation is absolutely worth monitoring. Let's see. Joe says, John, Brett McMurphy broke the Colorado story first, not repeat Thamel. Wow. He had out an hour before ESPN. Repeat Thamel. Well, Pete Thamel had the first tweet that said that Colorado was close. He had the one that was saying it was very close. Then Brett McMurphy came in and had the tweet. He was the first to say it was official. He was the first to like stake his claim to like, this is officially done yesterday. So that is how I saw it playing out yesterday. Repeat Thamel. I don't know. I've got no ill will toward Thamel at all. I like both of those guys a lot. Brett McMurphy's done the radio show, the podcast before. So I've got plenty of respect for him. I think Pete Thamel is really at the top of his game right now. He's probably the best of the best out there. So he got the first scoop that it was coming really close. Brett McMurphy was the first to go out there and say totally official. So that to me is a battle of semantics. But hey, I respected Joe. I'm certainly somebody that's had my grudges with folks in the media before, so I can't knock you too much for that. But hey, I just like it's a good time, Joe. This would be my message. Like, this is a great time if you're a Big 12 fan. This is a really good time. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like overly angry at anybody because this is a celebratory time. It's a fun time to be on the other side of this realignment thing. It is a fun time to be in a position of power and have the entire college football world looking at you. Like, I was just looking at Twitter a second ago before I hopped on here and saw the Big 12 trending again. And it's just like, man, this is great. This is great. That's why I'm rocking for second straight day my good old Big 12 Now on ESPN Plus polo. This time the white version, which I don't like that much. I don't think I look very good in white, but I'm doing it for the league. This is for you, Brett. This is for you, Brett. And Karen. All hail Lord Karen. Of course. All hail Lord Karen. I am doing it for them. The Smooth Toad. What's up, the Smooth Toad? The Smooth Toad. Would you rather have Colorado and Oregon or the Four Corner schools? Reckham. I would Colorado and Oregon or all the Four Corner schools. It's a good debate. It's a good debate there because if you're just getting two and one of them is going to be somebody that would leave very shortly, you would anticipate to the Big Ten. I might take the Four Corners in that. If you're giving me Washington and Oregon at the same time, along with another four corner, you're getting the four. I mean, like Arizona, Colorado, Washington, Oregon. That's the dream right now. That's the ultimate best case scenario. I might lean just grabbing all four corners and feeling like you have more long-term stability locked up there. If that is the choice presented to me, I think I would go with that. Working my way through these chats here, I actually forgot about, I was going to start the show with this. This is my fault because Hiking Cat was kind enough to DM me on Twitter and let me know that his super chat was one that got skipped yesterday. I'm going to try to avoid that again here today, guys, but it's the YouTube chat. When we have this many people in here, like 800 people in here, it gets tough. But Hiking Cat had this to say. Hiking Cat said, Yormark has bigger plans than anyone realizes, going to take in the entire Pac-12 and eventually ACC. He will create a new league to compete with the NCAA. Hiking Cat was thinking big with this. In recognition of how crazy it sounds, I recognize how crazy it sounds, but I've actually been thinking my final comment was putting my aluminum foil hat back on now. And this is what I told Hiking Cat on Twitter. I was like, look, do I think that is going to happen? No. Do I think the ACC is something to pay attention to here? Yes, because to me, it's like if you're getting down to the level of we need a 14th team and it's going to be Memphis or UNLV, I would say, dude, just sit it out and wait for the ACC. See what the hell happens there. I think patience could be a virtue as far as that goes instead of just reacting to get to 14. So I think you hit on something there. Wait for the ACC. I've long said you want to be the best of the rest. You want to clean up all the scraps from all the conferences. The ACC is a part of that. That would be a part of my MO here. And Brett Yormark is a big thinker. Like, he may be thinking ultimately down the road even bigger than we're even thinking right now, because that's just the way he is, and he is clearly executing on that. So I will never knock you for saying that Brett Yormark has huge, huge plans out there. And I appreciate you for being patient with that, Hiking Cat. Thank you for letting me know about that on Twitter. And I'm sorry for what happened yesterday. And just to reiterate here, what happened yesterday is, like, there were so many super chats and so much of the chat, it started like cutting off some of the chat for me later in the show, so I couldn't scroll back up to get to these. So again, I will try my best. Eric, what's up, Eric? Eric says, sounds like the continued failure of the Pac-12 to provide hard numbers has doomed the conference. Yep. Jason Shear, who I've always deemed as pretty credible in all this, but even for me, like, his credibility has taken it up another notch with how all this has played out, how on it he was this week with everything that was unfolding and everything that was happening. That was one of his tweets today. Like, guys, there are no hard numbers yet. There are still no hard numbers. And if there were, they'd be moving fast. They'd be screaming it from a mountaintop. That's even, like, Tim Weiser said that on the interview, the deputy commissioner of the Big 12, that made headlines for a different reason. But Tim Weiser said that too in the interview that you saw here on this channel. He said, like, look, if they had the numbers, like, if we had those numbers, we'd be screaming it from the mountaintop. So clearly they are not there. It just makes me wonder if, like, there are offers coming in and Kliavkoff has not been actually divulging those because he doesn't feel like they're good enough. I don't really know what is going on. I thought I saw, maybe I picked up on like a Pac-12 rumor out there that, like, ESPN wanted to wait until August 15th to announce something. So, I mean, hey, I guess we'll see how that goes. And we'll see if they can hold people out until that anyway. You know, some of these Pac-12 pipe dreams and dates and scenarios of what might actually be going on there, they may not actually get to the point where we would be able to find out because an Arizona may jump and then this whole thing just crumbles. Andrew, what's up, Andrew? Andrew says, thank you for being here, Andrew. Good old Andrew Woodward in the house. Andrew says, happy Colorado Day. I don't see how the Pac-9 makes it out of this. Viva la Big 12. Do you get a sense that Oregon and Washington are moving in lockstep, or can they act independently? Keep it up. That's a great freaking question, Andrew. All I will say is, like, I get the sense that Washington has been more receptive for a while and still is now, but that their interest level probably has both been perked, and their ears are perked up. Their interest level has been peaked a little bit with what has happened with Colorado, quite obviously. I've always thought, like, it would just make sense. It seems much more sensical for them to just make the jump themselves. Because, like, what are you going to do? I mean, if Washington were to leave, like, Oregon thinks that they can just stay behind in the Pac-7 and add teams. I don't know what the scenario is where they think that would work. I know people have kicked around the idea of Oregon going independent. I mean, perhaps that's a scenario, like Washington decides to go, but Oregon tries to go the independent route. Maybe something like that could happen. So I wouldn't say there's no chance of them separating, but it does seem like it would be more likely that they actually stay together. I like Jesse. Jesse, thank you. Jesse Meyer in with the chat. Thank you, Jesse. Jesse says Roswell/space is an untapped market and would travel well with Arizona and Arizona State. George will announce soon the Pacific Alien Conference. Hey, it works. It's the PAC, Pacific Alien Conference. That's very well done, Jesse. I'm here for any and every joke today, baby. I'm here for any and every joke that you guys have. So, Jesse, hit me with more of those. Guys, give me some where Jesse came from with that. That is strong. That's very strong. And let me remind you, if you're in here, please like the video if you could. I would really appreciate that. Totally free, one click, easy way to support the channel. Like the video. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. I am live typically twice a week. This week, it's going to wind up being more. So sometimes you get even more content than that. But I am live twice a week talking conference realignment, college football, college basketball, giving you a Big 12 perspective on it. And then I will also throw in some extra standalone content as well, in addition to the live show. So make sure you subscribe here. Great community of college football fans, in particular Big 12 fans. R Web. All right, it looks like we got some lyrics from R Web. You guys know R Web is always good for that. Thank you, R Web. Love seeing you in the chat as always. R Web says, westbound and down, loaded up and trucking. We're going to do what they say can't be done. Got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm westbound. Watch old Yizzo run. Well, I just said old. It should be old. Sorry, younger, hipper, cooler, Brett. Watch old Yizzo run. Also, I feel like old is much more in the vernacular of like the truck stop thing, you know? I said earlier today, like, hey, we're going to go down to the watering hole over yonder and celebrate this Colorado news, because that's how we talk around the truck stop. Thank you for that, R Web. I'm here for all the Brett Yormark content, man. That press release that he put out earlier today, one of the coolest things I've ever seen happen to the Big 12. You go poach Colorado, you throw out a statement, they're back, and that's it. Drop the mic. Will, what's up, Will? Thank you, Will. Will Bowden here. Appreciate your support. Will says the memes about the BYU-Colorado rivalry are hilarious. Larry Scott tried to force a Utah-Colorado rivalry to be a thing for years, and not a single fan ever cared. A BYU-Colorado rivalry. Okay. See, I was even unaware of this. I guess maybe I was like vaguely aware now that I think of it, that was sort of a thing in the Pac-12 to try and make happen. It's the quote from Mean Girls, like, you can't make fetch happen. That does seem like an awkward fit there. Colorado, Utah, so now trying to throw that back on BYU. I like it. There have been great memes all over the place. Somebody played to my sensibilities and had the Big 12 like superimposed over Kanye when he gave his Grammy speech from way back in the day, where he says, everybody asked me what I would do if I didn't win. And then long pause. And then he just says, I guess we'll never know, and picks up the Grammy and walks off, and had the Big 12 in that place. I loved that. Somebody else did the, we're all trying to figure out, what is it? We're all trying to find the guy who did this. And it's a dude in the hot dog costume from I Think You Should Leave, and put George Kliavkoff's face on that. It was also very strong. There have been some good ones. There have been some very good ones. Noyu, what's up, Noyu? Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Noyu says, good news for the six-pack. Strong. Good news for the six-pack will be how great their media deal will be from waiting so long. That's a very good point, Noyu. Nobody has really talked about that element of this, right? That we've heard it over and over again now lately. The longer this goes, the better it gets for the Pac-12. The longer they go without a TV deal, that's the thing Colorado didn't understand. You just had to give it more time. Give it another 6 months. This thing would have been even stronger, more suitors at the table. Who knows what actually could have happened there. You are correct. It's only going to get better. It's like a fine, what we've learned from George Kliavkoff is that TV deals are like a fine wine. They get better with age. Potential TV deals get so much better with age. You just have to let them sit around for a while and marinate. Steve, what's up, Steve? Appreciate you. Steve Barnes in the house. Steve, thank you. Thank you. Steve says, Pac-9, where arrogance meets dilution. Can we stick Oregon and Washington with a 10-year grant of rights? Love your clear, accurate shows. Well, hey, thank you for that. Much appreciate the support. You're not going to get Oregon and Washington on a 10-year grant of rights, and I think the Big 12 would understand that. Oregon and Washington may even need, like, you might have to finesse. If they're going to come, you might have to finesse the language in their contract, giving them a little bit more of an out, which is something I know that's been discussed in the Pac-12 too, because we all know, like, where they are likely going eventually in some form or fashion, it will be the Big Ten. We know their ultimate destination is probably going to be there. But for now, they're kind of stuck in this weird no man's land. So I don't think you have that kind of leverage. What you've done is just be able to, like, open the door to go recruit them. I view it like this. Bill Snyder had told a story at one point after he won his first Big 12 championship in 2003, finally got over that hump that K-State was able to get into more living rooms than they were before in terms of high profile recruits. Now, the back part of that story is that they got into more living rooms and still didn't actually land those kids, even though they were getting a little bit more attention there. And then that kind of screwed up their recruiting for a while, and they had some rough years because they weren't taking the kids that they would normally grab and develop. Threw it all off. They used too many resources on the higher profile kids that they were getting into the living rooms of. But that's how I view this. Like, you're now at least able to get into the living room of Oregon and Washington, but you don't really have leverage over them. Arizona, you probably do. And that's why I wonder if there's going to be a timeline put on the Arizona deal, because we've now seen reported post Colorado leaving that Brett Yormark had put kind of a soft August 1st deadline on Colorado. We need to figure something out by August 1st. I wonder if they would do the same to Arizona to try and pressure them a little bit, knock them off this stance that Robert Robbins has been on, that, like, hey, we're going to sit here and we are going to wait this thing out. We're going to wait this thing out and give the Pac-12 every single chance. Our web asks, do the aliens have GSTV? I would hope that they have Ion. Doesn't Ion sound like a TV channel that would actually get up to the spaceship? I feel like Ion sounds like a TV channel that would get up to the spaceship, or the CW. I hear the aliens are big Gossip Girl fans. So perhaps you could get the CW up in the spaceship. Maybe that would be something. Coleman, what's up, Coleman? Coleman Barker, appreciate you, man. Thank you for your support. Coleman says, if Oregon joins the Big 12, Would that constitute a renegotiated media rights deal? Also, is the Pac-12 waiting for a few teams to leave so their media deal means more money per school? I think that your first question, someone kind of asked me that yesterday, and I was like, at first I was like, well, no, because you have the pro rata clause kicked in from, well, it's ESPN that is guaranteed to give their part of it, which is 65% of it, and Fox, according to all the reporting, Action Network for sure. I saw it in Ross Dellinger's piece too. Colorado is going to get that full share, and it's because Fox has agreed to, for Power 5 schools, go ahead and pump in the rest of that. So you get the 31-7. UConn starts to get more tricky because UConn and San Diego State were deemed by Pete Thamel to not be in that group. So UConn and San Diego State, now you may have to be footing some of the bill, and some of the current members have had to do that for the 4 incoming schools. Texas and Oklahoma's fees on the way out the door have helped cover some of that. I mean, that might be difficult if you're looking at trying to help them a little bit there. But as far as like, does that constitute an entire, like, rip it up, sign a new deal because Oregon and Washington are so valuable if they were to come? I honestly do not know the answer to that. I really don't. I don't know if that's plausible. I don't know if that's how like it should work or typically would work. I truly do not know the answer to that. So that is a very good question. Is the Pac-12 waiting for a few teams to leave so their media deal means more money per school? No, I mean, the problem is long-term stability here. Like, you need to add. And that was something like John Wilner wrote about that. God, who was the other one? Get them all mixed up. I think it was McMurphy kind of wrote about that. That was like, hey, look, long-term, it might be in the best interest here for the Pac-12 to expand and get some strength in numbers, but Oregon and Washington may not be as keen on that because they don't want to split the pie more ways. Like, the best thing for the Pac-12 long-term would be to go take a couple of these like longer-term, water them and watch them grow sort of programs and invest in them. But Oregon and Washington have short-term needs that are not going to sync up to that, where they need as much money as possible. So I see what you're getting at there. Like, more schools leave, more money per school, but you can't, 9 is already tenuous enough. And you already are having trouble with, like, how are you going to pay the exit fee for San Diego State? I just don't think that they can start getting much lower than that. I really don't. So that's what makes this situation so complicated for the Pac-12. I mean, you can continue to say until the cows come home, hey, if we play our cards right, this should still be what the Big 12 is getting from a TV deal standpoint. But how are you? I mean, are you going to have a 9-team league? Then everybody has to all of a sudden throw one extra non-con game on the schedule for 2024 on short notice, which is going to cost you a pretty penny. And these schools like Washington and Washington State are already operating in big deficits and in a ton of financial trouble. So that becomes very complicated. You do probably need some strength in numbers in case somebody else decides to leave. Oregon and Washington can still up and leave at any time. Like, it is very, very complicated for the Pac-12 right now. You also need a certain amount of inventory, right? You need a certain amount of inventory, as we talked about many a time, and that was in regards to expansion from 10 to 12, but now it works from 9 to whatever. You need a certain amount of inventory to max out your TV value on the contract. So I think going lower than that would jeopardize a lot of that. Okay. All right. Beg your pardon. It just popped way forward for me on the chat. So I'm scrolling way back up here, man. It is crazy. Hopefully I didn't miss anything here. I may have, guys. It cut me off a little bit. My apologies. If I miss your super chat, if it gets railroaded by how quick the chat is moving with 900 people in here, DM me on Twitter. I will continue to check the DMs. DM me on Twitter if that happens to you. Please, please, please do. Okay, I see someone literally just did that. Cincy Chili. Good job, Cincy Chili. Thank you for that. Oh, someone's been doing, okay. M. Williams has been doing that for a lot of these here. Thank you. M. Williams 1969 on Twitter has been hitting me with the screenshots. This is perfect. This is going to help me fill in some of those gaps. There's our web. Do the aliens get GSTV? Okay, I see Nate says Monty Show. Nate, thank you. Nate Simons. Nate says Monty Show also reported Oregon and Washington meeting with the Big 12 tonight. Okay, well, I will pass along the same thing that I said yesterday. I have not listened to the Monty Show very much. There's no disrespect at all. I'm not super familiar with the show. I'm not super familiar with what the track record has been here. So I think that's fair information to put out. I've tried to be careful with MHV ER3 to just say, like, I appreciate it. I follow it. I've been looking at everything that he has been saying and tweeting, and I do believe that there is some level of information coming in there, but It's hard for me to know how exactly accurate all of that stuff is. So for anything like that, I'll put the information out there. Okay. Oregon and Washington, according to the Monty Show, meeting with the Big 12. I know the big push yesterday. Everyone's saying I hate Oregon State. The big push yesterday was that the Monty Show had been saying that Oregon State was a legitimate possibility for the Big 12. Not anything I've actually heard or come across, but that is out there. So thank you for that. I appreciate the info. That is good stuff, Nate. Good stuff. BYU Border. Okay, BYU Border followed up on that too. Thank you, BYU Border, for your support. BYU Border said Monty Show, Washington and Oregon are talking with the Big 12 today. Look, it would definitely fall in line. It would fall in line with what we have been hearing throughout all this, which I've already mentioned multiple times tonight, so I won't spend too much time on it once again here. But yeah, sounds like Washington for a little while has been more receptive. Oregon wasn't, but now is at least listening, and that Washington is a little bit further down that road, and it probably is at least a possibility. At least a possibility. I see Joe. What's up, Joe? Joe hopping back in here. Joe Khatib. Joe, who had the Pete Thamel hate earlier. Joe says, sorry, John. I respect you as a journalist. My Thamel hate comes from he and Thayer Evans trying to wreck the Oklahoma State program back in 2013. Oh, I remember that story with their BS Dirty Game Sports Illustrated stories. I definitely remember that story. I remember back in those days, and this for, let's see, for Oklahoma State fans should resonate. Robert Allen, Oklahoma State sideline reporter and does a radio show in Stillwater. I remember him coming on and really setting the record straight with us back when I think I was even co-hosting with Matt Walters at that time on the radio show back in 2013. I can remember him coming on and really setting the record straight, being pretty furious about that story as well at the time. So that makes sense, Joe. I get it. That definitely makes sense. Totally get it. See, Mike Williams, your new show producer in Houston. Thank you, Mike. Mike, you are doing God's work with this. Thank you very much. Thank you. BYU Border hopping back in. BYU Border says any combo of up to 4 teams, but not Utah, is welcome. All right, BYU Border is quite literally putting up a border for the Big 12 Conference and saying nothing else from Utah is coming in here. I saw one of the great nuggets from today. It's not really a nugget. It was a funny tweet. There were a couple of them from Utah fans, but one Utah fan had suggested that he would just give up being a fan, that he doesn't want – it was like, don't want to be in the Mountain West. Sure as hell don't want to be in the Big 12. I'm just going to give up being a fan if this is the road that we're going down. Utah fans have been struggling a little bit, going through it a little bit. And I have to say, I will give credit to the Pig Bus. Saw the Pig Bus account completely owning up to everything. Took the opposite Baltimore route and was just owning up to everything and saying vehemently that he was very wrong. So kudos to that, man. For real. Shout out to that. It was like responding to every tweet that had come in of people calling him out. So I can respect that. David Talks Buffs. What's up, David Talks Buffs? David Talks Buffs. Great to have you here. Welcome to our new Buff brethren, I assume there. David Talks Buff says, RE Ducks Huskies, would being a full member of the Big 12 pay more than being a partial member of the Big 10? Another very good question. I would think that being a partial member of the Big 10 is going to pay you more, because if you look at what, they're going to be pushing $70 million per school. So if you're, say like a 75% cut of that or something, this is where I struggle. I'm not a math major, but I mean, you're getting around 50, 45, 50. And that would be my guess. But nobody really knows unless you're in those rooms with the TV folks. I don't think anybody really truly knows what those numbers look like. So I would just suggest and say that it's more than likely going to be fairly significantly more money to be a partial member of the Big 10. And the other thing you're gaining from the Big 10 is just more stability. It's the ultimate home where you want to be. It's the prestige. It's all of that. Especially for a place like Oregon. I think the calculus for Oregon, and this is probably a reason why Washington is more interested in the Big 12, would be more interested in the Big 12, is because Oregon has the Nike money backing. I popped in, I listened to just briefly a little bit the Oregon State Twitter space that was going on last night, which I feel for them. I do. But they had said Oregon just has so much Nike money. I believe the quote was, they're so far up Nike's, what. And so they can float some of that extra money. Phil Knight could make some of that work. We know how much he is worth. He can make some of that work. And as long as they're in the place with the prestige and the long-term stability of the Big 10, they could probably withstand that. it would hurt a little bit more for Washington. Perhaps money is just a bigger deal for Washington because you don't have the Phil Knight backing. And I'm not super familiar with Washington's financial situation at all, but I know they don't have Phil Knight. So Phil Knight definitely helps out Oregon a lot as far as that goes. So my guess, again, to answer your question, David Talks About Us, my guess would be partial member of the Big Ten is still going to pay you more. Brad, thank you, Brad. Brad Lyles says, keep up the good work. We're having fun now. We sure as hell are, Brad. Thank you very much, Brad, for being here and supporting the channel. Jared, what's going on, Jared? Jared, I am not seeing a message attached to your donation, your super chat, but I appreciate it. Thank you for your support. Jared Timmons, my guy, being here tonight, joining the party and joining in the fun with everybody. Jamie, thank you, Jamie. Jamie Thornton, congrats to the Big 12 family. Go for the kill, RIP, GBD. Go for the kill. That is definitely the message right now from me to Brett Yormark. If I am talking to Brett Yormark, I am absolutely telling him to go in for the kill right now. This is the time to do it because the ground has been destabilized. This is when you go get him. You know, it's like you landed a punch. The guy's kind of staggering. You don't want to let him be able to gather himself, sit in his corner, get some water, get it, you know, the wounds all bandaged up. No, you need to come in swinging now and get that in before the end of the round. I think that's really what it is right now for the Big 12. I also see K-Stater and ABQ. K-Stater and ABQ says Colorado did their best Seinfeld Kramer. I'm out. I've been watching a lot of Seinfeld lately, actually, so I can appreciate that reference. I've been very much on a like a nostalgia kick here. Lots of things from the 90s. You know, my favorite band growing up, Blink-182, they've been back on a world tour. I got to see them. They've been all over the place. They're in the news yesterday because my guy Tom DeLonge is helping solve this UFO crisis, the alien crisis. So it's been leading me down a road of nostalgia. So I appreciate K-Stater and ABQ, the Seinfeld reference there. Our web says, John, Eastbound and Down, Smokey and the Bandit. I didn't. Yeah, look, our web. I didn't get the reference. I'm assuming that's that was the reference, the song lyrics that you did earlier. It was over my head. I'm sorry, it was over my head. I knew it was probably something, but I didn't get it. Okay, I'm not a good like Smokey and the Bandit's a movie, right? This is where I'm gonna get myself into trouble because I just don't know. I don't know movies like at all. Yeah, old Burt Reynolds movie. I don't know movies at all, and I was born in 1989, so it's just not my wheelhouse, and it's a weakness. We used to do a bit on my radio show where we made fun of, like, they would play me movie clips that I'd have to guess, and I would embarrass myself on a weekly basis for entertainment purposes. It's just not my deal. It's just not my deal. Michael, what's up, Michael? Michael says, Michael White, by the way, thank you for your support. Michael says, I don't see how Oregon and Washington can't be working furiously behind the scenes in desperation to get into the Big 12 or Big 10. I don't think they really have any leverage to make demands. Oh, I'm sure they're working furiously. I am sure of that. Like I said earlier, we had many people point out the Monty Show saying that Oregon and Washington were meeting with the Big 12 tonight. MHV3ER was saying the same sort of thing. No idea how serious those conversations would be at this point, but I imagine there's plenty of back channeling going on with the Big 10 too. Big 10, a big part of this that is a variable that's very interesting is that the Big 10 is also dealing with right now the fact that they have a new commissioner. And what is Tony Petitti's real appetite for this to go do it right now? Can Oregon and Washington? You're right that they don't have a lot of leverage to make demands. You are correct in that. Probably more so with the Big 12, obviously, than the Big 10, but they do not have a lot of leverage. The Big 10 is going to look at it right now and know it's kind of a sinking ship right here now in the Pac-12. They definitely don't have much leverage there because the Big 10 can say, like, dude, we'll take this whenever, man. We will take this whenever. Cincy Chili. What's up, Cincy Chili? Cincy Chili says, do you think Washington and Oregon stock has fallen to $31.7 million? Why would Fox pay top dollar for them and put them in the Big 10 when they can pay pennies on the dollar and put them in the Big 12? Well, yeah, look, Fox, you're correct. If that's a good point, Cincy Chili. I'm glad you pointed that out. It goes along with the question that I got asked earlier about the fact that, or asking like, hey, which would be more money, partial share in the Big 10 or full share in the Big 12? If Fox had their druthers and it could just be, yeah, get them in the Big 12 at 31.7, we'll continue paying that along with your pro rata clause and move right along. We'd rather do that than pay, 40, 50, whatever it would be in the Big 10. Although some of that. There were so many different networks involved. I would have to see the breakdown of what percentage of that is the Big Ten. I mean, I think we're getting like way down in the weeds on numbers there, but in general, I see the point that you're making. Yes, I see the point that you're making, that it would be easier potentially to just be paying $31.7 million than worrying about however that split would work in the Big Ten. And then also, like, eventually maybe in the Big Ten, that number has to go up when the next TV deal comes around. So yes, I think there is validity to what you're saying there. Matthew, what's up, Matthew? Matthew Hunsaker, longtime supporter of the channel. Thank you for being here, sir. Matthew says, this week has had the excitement of New Year bowl season. Can't believe how much action is finally hitting after months of rumors. Loving seeing the receipt cash-ins. Some brutal tweets today. Yormark is killing it. There are some brutal tweets out there. You can go, I'll just point you to my Twitter account, JL Kurtz. I started an official receipt thread. There were tons of them in there. They are brutal. People were even bringing up like the old Kliavkoff saying that they were going to catch the Big Ten and the SEC financially here at one point in time, which is just insanely laughable. Probably one of the dumber things that has been said in the entire conference realignment saga. I'll even take that back to like 2010. It's an all-timer. It's a really bad one. I don't think it got enough attention at the time. It was a terrible quote. So yes, there are receipts aplenty, and I would highly encourage going and reading that thread for some good laughs. John Bullock, don't see a message attached to the super chat, John Bullock, but I very much appreciate your support. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for being here. John Bullock, my guy. Josh War, what's up, Josh War? Josh War says, not going to lie, not the biggest fan of Utah joining in the Big 12. Cats logo is looking great on the shelf. Yes, there we go. That's my guy, Josh. Josh is, if you guys look at the Cats logo behind me, I'm going to have to pop back in away from my Twitter DMs here. So, okay. Yeah, see the Cats up top there? Duck down for you. That cat script that was done by my guy, Josh, who is excellent. Hit him up. Make sure you hit up Josh War on Twitter, WARR. If you want a little bit of work, like some, it's like what, I don't want to mess up what exactly it is you do, Josh, but it's really damn cool. You can take any logo you want and put it into that form. It is great. And yes, I know you guys are not the biggest fan of Utah necessarily coming back, but hey, there's a scenario here where Utah gets left out and like real screwed. I mean, if the Oregon and Washington stuff really starts to develop and Arizona starts responding more to those overtures, I mean, now you're starting to see where that's going. Utah could get left without a real seat at the table. You guys could have yourself something there. You really could, in terms of, just some bragging rights in the rivalry, making fun of your rival. David Leachman, thank you so much, David Leachman. Appreciate you being here and appreciate your support as always. David Leachman in the house. Matador Mike. What's up, Matador Mike? Thank you for the support. Matador Mike says, I said 2 months ago, Oregon and Utah will love the game atmosphere in Lubbock and Waco. Arizona and Arizona State played KU and Oklahoma State in home and homes recently. The better atmosphere will draw in 4-6, in my opinion. Will draw in 4-6, in my opinion. Okay, so Matador Mike is saying Oregon and Utah will love the game atmosphere in Lubbock and Waco. Matador Mike is saying, hey, the appeal of the conference right now to these other Pac-12 schools is going to be the atmosphere at games. And I would even extrapolate it out from that, Matador Mike, to just say how much the fan bases care. But I will say there is going to be a hurdle there for Oregon and Washington. Like, that's a hard sell to your fans, man. I mean, they want to go to the Big Ten. I'm sure they have plenty of frustrations with leadership in the Pac-12 and how all that's been going. How could you not? But you definitely want the Big Ten. The Big 12 there's probably going to be a little bit of that arrogance there. And at least in Washington and Oregon's case, it is somewhat earned with the success and just the brands that they have. It is a little bit more earned than some of the rest of the collective conference in the Pac-12 would annoy me slightly less. But thinking like, hey, we're going to go take a lateral move with a conference that's now away from our rivals, away from our geography, and we're still not in the Big Ten, I would think it's going to be hard to get them really excited for it. But hey, I do see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying, that they could maybe get behind. Once they get here and see some of the atmosphere and some of how much people really care about it around here, they could probably start to get behind that a little bit. Cynthia, what's up, Cynthia? Cynthia Kleist. How are the odds for UConn coming to the Big 12? Definitely for basketball, not for football. This is a K-Stater from Connecticut. Okay, so this would be good for me. All right, Cynthia. Well, here's the UConn situation. The UConn situation is going to be if Arizona doesn't bite, if Arizona doesn't budge, and they're still going to be content to really wait this out. They wouldn't abide by any sort of timeline put on them by the Big 12. They seriously have enough trust in Kliavkoff to wait it out. And the Oregon and Washington, I'll take it a step, but not quite a pipe dream, maybe like a step below, but your high in the sky hopes don't come true with that. Then UConn's next up, and that's going to be a big push from Brett Yormark, who I think is all in on the potential of UConn, which is elite basketball, improving football, albeit not great, but access to the New York market, regardless of how much you believe it really delivers you New York. It's at least somewhat in there. And we know how much Brett Yormark values New York, being a New York guy. And you're also just in ESPN's backyard. I think for all of those reasons, Brett Yormark really believes in it. He's also a little bit more basketball inclined and eventually wants to split those basketball rights away from the football rights in the next TV deal. So he sees a lot of potential there. I think that would take some work, some massaging. But if it really gets down to that point, the options are, hey, you've either got that or you're going to be what am I trying to say? You've either got that or you're going to go down to the next tier of like San Diego State, Memphis, et cetera, et cetera. Then you may be more inclined to get behind UConn. That's kind of my thought on it. So I think there's a decent chance, but right now it does feel like there's enough momentum that the Big 12, I would still say, feels a little bit more likely than not to me that they would pick off somebody else from the Pac-12. But it's certainly very much in the realm of possibility, and Brett Yormark really likes UConn. So you've at least got that going for you. You've got that going for you. Okay, those are all the super chats that I had in my DMs from my guy M to the W here, Matt Williams. He says, time for dinner, have to run. You're on your own now. Have a great day. Feel free to buy me a drink at the K-State Houston basketball game. You've earned yourself a drink or three, my friend. So you come find me and we will absolutely make that happen. Oh boy. Did we get a Pac-12 statement? Our web just sent me this. We got a Pac-12 statement? No. Okay. We've got a Pac-12 statement, everybody here. You ready for this? We get to read live on the air here a Pac-12 statement. Remember the last time we got one of these statements? It was a unity statement, the old Pac-12 unity statement. Here it is, statement from the Pac-12 conference. The Pac-12 is comprised of world-leading universities and athletic programs who share a commitment to developing the next generation of leaders, supporting student-athletes' academic and athletic excellence, and broad-based athletic success. We remain committed to our shared values and to continuing to invest in our student-athletes. Today's decision by the University of Colorado has done nothing to disrupt that commitment. We are focused on concluding our media rights deal and securing our continued success and growth. Immediately following the conclusion of our media rights deal, we will embrace expansion opportunities and bring new fans, market excitement, and value to the Pac-12. Okay, well, I laugh because there's a whole lot of nothing in a lot of that statement, and a whole lot of corniness, to be completely honest, in a lot of that statement from the Pac-12. I will just say this. I think the significance of that, why they are trying to do that, is to just show, hey, everybody's still on board here. We got the minds together to meet, and everybody is on board enough to allow us to release this statement. But we know in the world of conference realignment, that doesn't mean anything. You can change on a dime. There was a quote from Canzano earlier today that was quoting an anonymous athletic director within the Pac-12 conference that was saying, like, hey, Colorado just the other day was in there saying they were all in and waiting on the TV deal, basically acting surprised by all this because it can change like that. We know it can change like that. So, okay, cool. You released a statement. You got everybody on board enough to release that statement. But like, what other move do you have right now? Even if you are talking to the Big 12, even if you are deep in the throes of talking to the Big 12, you're going to need to even in your best interest. It's not about like placating the Pac-12. It's about placating your best interest. You want to keep as many options on the table. Keep the option on the table of being with the Pac-12. Keep the option on the table of making the Pac-12 the best it can be, because that may wind up being your best option depending on how things shake down. So, of course, you're going to agree to that. Of course, we also know how well just general statements have worked for the Pac-12 in the past anyway, because that unity statement wound up looking very stupid, where they said in the very near future, we will consummate a media rights deal. And that was in February. We're like almost 6 months away from that thing. So This has not gone well for them before. It also just strikes me as like a little bit weak. A little bit weak. Like, hey, your response is just to make sure that you get a statement out. I don't know. I would just be much more focused on my actions and delivering an actual TV deal if I were George Kliavkoff than worrying so much about a statement. But hey, I guess you do what you got to do. You do what you got to do. Scrolling through here, and guys, I lost my DM hookup, so I'm just gonna let you know we're probably unfortunately gonna lose some super chats here. I apologize for that. We probably are gonna lose some super chats. If the chat here does skip over it and I don't get to yours, hit me up in my DMs on Twitter, and I will try to keep checking those and get to as many of you guys as I can. I know this is rather inconvenient, but it's what happens, I guess, when we have we got 1,000. We got over 1,000 people here in the chat. Let's see how much latitude this is going to give me to go back up. Okay, maybe we're not going to miss that many because here's Cynthia. I got to Cynthia. I got to Nate. Okay, Nate, I see you. Nate, thank you for your support. Appreciate it, Nate. Nate says, John just tweeted at you. Pac-12 just put out a statement. Okay, so you guys were all over this, not just our web. Eric, what's up, Eric? Thank you for your support. Eric Worthen here. Eric says, who knew that Oregon and Washington was the fourth time zone schools Brett Yormark was aiming for all along? Yeah, I think Brett Yormark, like we continue to see like a lot of the reporting, like Brett McMurphy had said, like the ideal scenario for the Big 12 was the four corner schools. So it sounds like even most of what is being said by the Big 12 is still four corners. And I don't know if that is about trying to keep people off the scent of Washington and Oregon, if that is about thinking, hey, it's the ideal scenario is to get the four corners because we know they wouldn't be leaving and we create more long-term stability as opposed to maybe shorter-term rentals of Oregon and Washington, because that's probably what you'd have to look at it like, just a short-term rental, going to the old Blockbuster and you're going to rent. It's a nice Friday night. You get a pizza, you get some Mountain Dew, and you can just rent Oregon and Washington for a couple of years. Probably what it would be. So I don't know if that's really what the strategy is behind still having that be what is reported. Maybe it's just them thinking like, hey, people will think we sound stupid if we say we're going to get or think Oregon and Washington is the best case scenario. We're just trying to be more realistic with that. I don't know. But I'm sure Brett Yormark has thought in the back of his mind, like, hey, this is something that could be on the table. Let's get Colorado and see what happens. We've now seen that in the reporting. It was clear that when Brett Yormark said, hey, we have a strategy at Big 12 Media Days, I'm not going to talk about it, but we have a strategy. The strategy was go get Colorado and we'll move from there. Go get Colorado, kick this thing into high gear, get a big win, destabilize the conference a little bit, and we will see what happens after that. Jim, what's up, Jim? Jim, thank you for being here. Jim says the Big Ten's next media rights deal has no pro rata to add schools. So if Oregon and Washington join the Big 12, they know they are here through at least 2030, 2031. Should the Big 12 invite them anyway? Hell yes. Well, they theoretically would be, except they could still pay whatever fees, whatever exit fees would be there for leaving early. That the devil would be in the details on a lot of that. What all would that entail for Oregon and Washington if they came on? How easy would it be for them to get out of the Big 12? But I'm with you. Like, no matter what that situation is, I think it's a good thing to just earn the credibility of grabbing Oregon and Washington, no matter what, man. You just want to do that. You want to do that. You want to get them in. You want to take that huge W. Imagine what that would do to your credibility in like the national landscape if indeed you were actually able to land them for whatever period of time. You take that win. I'm with you all the way on that. Jay Rodriguez, what's up, Jay Rodriguez? Thank you for your support, my friend. Jay Rodriguez says, Karen press release, welcome Colorado to the Big 16 Truck Stop Conference. Go Cougs. Well, Jay Rodriguez, since you brought her up, all hail Lord Karen. All hail Lord Karen. Maybe she's in the chat here tonight. Not sure. Got to always act like your boss is watching you. So I will continue to act like Lord Karen is watching me here. Overlord Karen, that is. But yes, I'm with you. Welcome Colorado officially to the Truck Stop Conference. Shout out to the Gambling Gauchos. I saw that they Gambling Gauchos had already photoshopped up a nice 18-wheeler. With Colorado, I don't remember if it was like a Colorado logo or like a Buffalo was the 18-wheeler, but it was good. It was good stuff. Steve, what's up, Steve? Steve Barnes here. Steve says, how is Colorado a better ad than SDSU? Aztecs vastly better programs in a larger city in the SoCal TV market. Well, so you're actually wrong there. So San Diego is a smaller market than Denver. I just saw it in Wilner's article. I believe it was like 16 versus 30. So it is a smaller market, but I mean, you're absolutely right. If we're talking about like what teams will be performing better on the field, or certainly historically have performed better on the field in recent history, it's easily San Diego State. Like, that's not even a question. It's not even close. I will just say again here, it's about symbolism. This is kind of, Steve, this is something we run into. Like, this is Big 12 fans were faced with this, and it sucked for a long time, where it's like you have schools here, Baylor, K-State, Oklahoma State, that are much more well accomplished than, like, you know, Boston College, Vandy, Mizzou, that are in some of these power conferences, but it didn't matter. Or, you know, Texas. I mean, K-State has won as many Big 12 championships as Texas has since the league started, but yet so is Baylor. And yet Texas is considered a much more valuable prize in the realignment world because it is about so much more. It's about brand. It's about prestige. Like, Colorado is a Power 5 team from the league that you've been kind of publicly eyeing for a long time. So it just represents destabilization of the conference and a big pelt on the wall. Whereas San Diego State, like, has just been there and could have been had for a long time. So it's not fair. What I'm telling you is it's not fair that that's really the way it is. But yes, Colorado was more important to the Big 12 than grabbing San Diego State. But it has nothing to do with the actual strength of the program. Strength of the program at San Diego State, much, much, much better. And I see you did add here at the end, maybe a Deion Sanders thing. I mean, Deion maybe has like a little bit to do with it. Makes Colorado slightly more attractive, but not a ton. Not a ton. And that is certainly up for debate. It's been very funny to watch. Sorry, trying to catch up on the chats here. It's been very funny to watch some of the pivoting from, like, you know, even George Kliavkoff himself. That was one of the receipts that we saw brought up today, is George Kliavkoff himself had talked about Colorado and Deion adding value to the media deal and being valuable to the conference and an entity like that. And now, of course, I think that's probably going to start to shift in terms of how they would view that. You know, we will certainly see a shift. Lewis, what's up, Lewis? Man, I might actually be kind of close to catching up on the super chats here. I'm proud of myself. We're humming through this. I think I'm doing a pretty good job. But once again, the Twitter DMs are open. I will move back to checking that and get off of the Pac-12 statement there. So if I did miss your super chat, just DM me on Twitter. It's at JL Kurtz, and I will try to get to that because it is hard to keep up. Also, I will throw another reminder out here, since we've hit 1,000 people in the chat. I think this is the second highest number of people I've ever had in the chat. Crazy enough, the first was it was the night that Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma. I think that was my most viewed live chat show of all time, which was a wild ride. But if you're here, please like the video. Totally free, just one click. It'll help me out if you like the video. I would really appreciate that. Easy way to support the channel. Also, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Click that subscribe button. I go live twice a week. This week, it's going to wind up being more because I'm sure I will be going live once again on Sunday. And look, it just depends on what happens. I recognize the need and the appetite for another live show tonight after going live last night. So I'm also going to always strive to give you guys as much content as I can. But we're always talking conference realignment here. We're always talking college football and college basketball. You're going to get it from a Big 12 angle here. But we're covering the broad base of pretty much everything that's going on right now, particularly in the realignment space. So consider subscribing if you have not, and click that bell so you know when it is I am going live. You will get notifications about that. Lewis, what's up, Lewis? Lewis, good to see you here. Thank you for your support as always. Lewis says, sorry I've had to catch the podcast rebroadcast, JK, but today is followed by the over-under of next departure to the Big 12. Over under Arizona to the Big 12 is 10 days. I'm all over under 10 days. I'm under. Okay. Lewis is trying to set us an over under for Arizona to the Big 12 and says 10 days. That would put us at what, like August 7th ish, August 6th, maybe. Whew. It's just hard for me to say because right now it doesn't feel like there's been a lot of immediate movement there. It seems like Robert Robbins is still the president of Arizona, content to wait and give George Kliavkoff a chance. Or at least, well, more of a chance. I think plenty of chances have been given, but more of a chance to actually present some concrete media deal if that is actually out there somewhere. So And we got that statement that we just read. I mean, regardless of how in some ways laughable it is, we did get that statement. So it seems like for right now, they're not like immediately rushing to that. So it's hard for me to say because of that I would get completely on board with feeling confident with the under, but also it's conference realignment. This stuff can change on a dime. And the Colorado saga took some crazy twists and turns where it felt like they walked right up to the line, didn't quite do it, backed off, but then they came back eventually and did jump. So I'd probably go over, but it's just because of what I'm seeing today that I'm not seeing a lot of really crazy movement toward getting there. But that's a good question, and I think a pretty fair over under. Matthew, what's up, Matthew? Matthew Hazelhorst. Matthew says, just got here. Oregon and Washington want Big Ten. They come for temporary stability. They jump once a better deal opens after throwing around their weight from Brand. Texas 2.0. I don't know if it's good long term. You bring up a great counterpoint, and that is probably the most effective counterpoint to what I was saying about Oregon and Washington, where I would say, hey, take the rental. If you can get them, get them. That would give you a lot of credibility. That's a G move from Brett Yormark. If he can actually do it, it's fun and exciting for the current members here of the conference. It will immediately, like I saw someone ask the question on Twitter, like if you got Oregon and Washington, and we'll just throw Arizona in there, right? You get those schools, but you get Oregon and Washington back. You have two top brands. They're not quite Texas and Oklahoma, but I mean, they're two pretty good brands. And now you've strengthened it with just a really good, solid, balanced league top to bottom underneath it. The question was like, would you be better off as a league at that point than you were with Texas and Oklahoma? And I thought, I mean, it's at least a discussion. It's at least a discussion, which to me is enough reason to probably go ahead and do it and just ride that out. But solid point. One of the things we hear over and over and over again is how unified this conference is right now. And it's as unified as it has been perhaps ever. I mean, we've seen that thrown out there a lot by Big 12 sources and articles that it's as unified as it has ever been. If you are throwing in two schools that are going to feel one kind of pouty that they're there, not being super all in on being there, and then two trying to demand extra things, that could be an issue. That could be an issue. It's like the concept of just like keeping a happy locker room, right? I mean, teams don't like guys that wind up being a locker room issue and kind of a locker room sort of cancer, bad attitude, that sort of thing that can really hurt you even if you are really talented. So it's something to watch out for. It's something to watch out for. I think it would take Brett Yormark making sure that they are really all in, at least for whatever time they're going to be there. Be all in and don't be expecting a bunch of preferential treatment. If Brett Yormark could sell them on the vision enough to get them kind of excited about being there, at least moderately excited, then I'm with it. But if you do perceive them to be long-term attitude problems, completely get it. That's a valid point. I understand why you would be leery of that. It's a good and fair counter. Nick, what's up, Nick? Nick Nicholson in the chat. Thank you, Nick, for being here. And thank you for your support. Nick says, long time, no super chat. Not much to add, my man. We've come a long way from 2 years ago. Thanks for helping be a positive voice for the Big 12 over that span. It's a good day, my man. Go Pokes and go Big 12. Hey, go Pokes indeed, Nick. Great to see you back here. I appreciate it. Thank you for your support as always. Happy to just be a small little part of this ride for everybody, man, and hope that I can give you guys a little bit more enjoyment in this whole process along the way. It was fun. Somebody tweeted at me. Well, it was someone, and I'm not going to remember who it was, but I said this last night, had reminded me that my pinned tweet for like 2 years had been an argument about why I thought the Big 12 could be better than the Pac-12, which is very prophetic, obviously, here today. And it was just even looking back at that video, remembering where I was in life. I was still in Manhattan. I wasn't in Kansas City. It was just a completely different stage. Like, it just reminded me of how much has happened in 2 years. It was fun to go back down that road and look back at some of the progress. So, Nick, great time to reflect on all that, how much progress the league has made, how much progress we all have made, right? A lot of things have changed in 2 years for everybody. Get caught back up here. We're getting close. I'm almost caught up. We're almost caught up, man. Man, it's been so much better today. It's been so much better today than yesterday with keeping track of the chats. David, what's up, David? David Leachman, thank you for being here, David. Much appreciate you and your support. David says, at what point is the Pac-12 no longer a Power 5? And with 6 auto bids for college football playoff conference champions, does the Mountain West get that slot? At what point are they no longer a Power 5? I think Oregon and Washington are your keys there. The only way that comes into question is if Oregon and Washington leave. As long as those two are there, it's going to get consideration as a Power 5 conference. And look, the college football playoff is just going to be the top 6 conference champions, right? So top 6 conference champions. I don't think it really matters necessarily as much whether or not that Power 5 distinction is actually there. You're going to have more access to the playoff if you are a non-Power 5 league. So even if, I heard a little bit of discussion earlier today about if the Pac-12 were to really blow up, could like Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, Stanford like scrape together, something else, whether that's going to be, and maybe it was like a Utah or somebody else was still getting left behind there in that scenario too. You could scoop up like some of the Mountain West schools and form kind of a merge between the two conferences. And the thought there was like, hey, with the college football playoff the way it is, you could still very much have a conference champion that would be in the top 6 conference champions and potentially get into the playoff. So that's kind of how I view that situation. But I really do, if you're talking about like still being viewed as a Power 5 conference, if Washington and Oregon are there, they are good enough brands, good enough teams to still get that sort of consideration. But the other problem you're going to face with that is, well, we may be moving pretty quickly toward just people deeming it the Power 2 and everybody else. I think we are headed on a freight train toward that. So at some point, the Power 5 term may kind of drop from the vernacular anyway in college football. I mean, certainly we're seeing some of that from, I suppose, probably SEC country. I've seen it a lot more from like Big Ten folks, and it's like Purdue. Purdue was the one that when Purdue thought that they had a legit shot at Chris Kleiman, high roll, to go get him as their head coach for a second this offseason. He was showing up on like hot boards there. I saw that term being thrown around by Purdue fans. Of course, it's always the mediocre to lower schools in the Big Ten and the SEC that seem to thump their chest the loudest about the conference because that's the one thing they have. They're not actually winning games. But we're already seeing Power 2 being thrown around there. We're probably not too far away from that just being a more common vernacular in the sport. And I would think 2024 is going to really start to accelerate some of that when Texas and Oklahoma and USC and UCLA get to their new homes. Bill G, what's up, Bill G? Bill G says Oregon and Washington would be major coup for the Big 12. I think media partners will limit the conference to 16. Yes, it does. 16 seems to be the max. There's even been some suggestion out there that like 14 is the real ideal and they would want to stop after that. And you'd be, I guess, trying to position people to compete for this last spot, and that can be a strategy that works. You try and increase the urgency for one spot and get the demand up. But I agree with you, Bill. I don't think anything would be going higher than 16. Sorry, Bill. I don't mean to laugh. I'm seeing a comment under here. It was not a super chat. I just see someone ask, John, how's the weed in Kansas City? Mid. It is legal here in Kansas City, Missouri. It is legal. And you know what? I enjoy it. It's not, I would not call it mid. But I've never lived in Colorado or California, some of the OG spots. Edward, what's up, Edward? Thank you, Edward, for being here. Much appreciate you, my friend. Edward says, the Pac and the ACC gentlemen's agreement coming soon. Oh, wait. Red Raider, Big 12 fan living and working in Doha. Love the show. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Edward. Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate your kind words. I was trying to look up. Okay, Doha is in Qatar. I was like, I don't want to screw up where exactly that's at. Doha in Qatar. Love that. Getting some international flavor. 2 nights in a row, we've had some international flavor here on the chat. So thank you for that, Edward. There was somebody reported that Pac-12 today had gotten on the phone with the ACC. I think that was Jim Williams. That was Jim Williams who had that report. The Pac-12 had gotten on the phone with the ACC today. So I don't know. Maybe we're getting an Alliance Round 2. Anybody here for Alliance Round 2? First movie was so good, we might as well get a sequel of all that, huh? Nick, what's up, Nick? Nick Nicholson back in here. Thank you, Nick, for your support once again. Nick said, quick thought, if we get Oregon and Washington, would Florida State and Clemson take a hard look at the Big 12 once their grant of rights was up? That conference would garner a media contract that would get close to the Big 10 and SEC. Interesting thought. The hard part would be getting there because we're talking about the grant of rights goes through 2034. It's 34 or 35 for the ACC, mid-2030s. So you're talking about holding on to Oregon and Washington for a decade by the time you'd actually get there, and that would happen. That seems like a non-starter to me that probably would not happen. I think in your scenario, if that were to somehow take place, that if you had a conference with Florida State, Clemson, Oregon, Washington, that probably does get you a pretty good, solid media value that would be at least in the ballpark. But the problem there is going to be once that grant of rights comes up, like those schools are not going to prefer the Big 12. Florida State and Clemson are going to prefer the SEC. So unless somehow, I don't know, like that Dabo leaves, goes somewhere else, Clemson really falls off, Florida State continues to flounder for a long time, and the SEC, I guess, just isn't interested at that point, but then they're not going to be as valuable for you in the Big 12. I think there are a couple conundrums there. One would be keeping Oregon, Washington long enough. The other would be Florida State and Clemson. You'd have to thread a needle there where they're still good enough to add that sort of value to your conference, but not so good that the SEC would really be interested, or perhaps even the Big 10, but probably the SEC. And maybe it's just the SEC at that point says, we've got Florida. We don't need someone else in Florida. And we've got South Carolina. We don't need somebody else in South Carolina. But I don't know. It just seems like a lot of needle threading having to go on there. It's a fun scenario to play out in your head. I would love to see that for the Big 12, but I think it's too difficult for me to come up with any sort of realistic way that actually happens. Neilio, thank you for your support as always, Neilio. My guy, great to see you here. Neilio says, great show, John. Crazy times we're living in with our collegiate athletics, isn't it? Enjoyed the show. #GoCats. Appreciate you, Neilio. Crazy times indeed, man. Crazy times indeed. You just never know exactly when this stuff is going to pop. And I've been surprised now 3 summers in a row. It is 3 summers in a row because we had 2021 with Texas OU. We had last year with USC, UCLA. Now we have this with Colorado. It seems just like an annual thing. It is an annual thing at this point in time. Will, what's up, Will? Appreciate you, Will. Will Truman, great supporter of the channel. Thank you for being here, Will. Will says, if Oregon and Washington come in and do well and leave, the Big 12 has to fight a whole new Big 12 is nothing without its top 2 brands narrative. All Big 12 success gets attributed to them. Hey, that's another valid enough point to bring up. The Big 12 has been very resilient, and they've made it through the Oklahoma and Texas thing here. And you also, if you have a 16-team conference and then they would leave, you'd have plenty of strength in numbers. You're probably still talking about schools that are in that category of like good, solid on the field, but the brand isn't enough to be really enticing to the 2 big boys. So you could probably still withstand it better, I would think. And it would also depend on like how Oregon and Washington actually perform on the field. If they can keep up what they're doing right now, I'd like to think that, some of the others in the Big 12 could really challenge them over the course of a long period of time. But yeah, there is the potential for that narrative to be out there. Short-term win, maybe in the long term, it comes back around and you're dealing with another Texas or Oklahoma sort of situation. I think it's fair. I think it's fair feedback and pushback there. Well, I do. Roger West. What's up, Roger West? I don't see a question or comment attached there. Oh, now I see Roger. Roger says, first time I've ever caught you live. Enjoy your work. I'd love to see Arizona in the Big 12 bear down. Hey, thank you, Roger. I appreciate that. Bear down indeed. Look, Roger, I am all for Arizona getting here. Right over there, I'm pointing to my dresser. I've got a pair, actually, of Arizona basketball shorts because I like the old school, like Arizona basketball shorts are so damn cool. I always loved those. And K-State played in Tucson in the NCAA tournament in 2011. It was the 10-11 season. And I did not get to go. I would have gotten to gone with student radio at that time, but I was doing K-State baseball broadcasts. So I was actually in Austin. I think I was at UFCU Dish-Falk Field doing K-State baseball. I didn't get to go make that trip, but I gave my friend like $50 and said, bring me back a pair of Arizona basketball shorts because I love those like iconic old Arizona basketball shorts. So I've got a pair. I'm ready for Arizona to come to the Big 12. Thank you for your support, Roger. I appreciate it. Appreciate it immensely. Okay, and now we are down to Brad. What's up, Brad? Brad, thank you for your support. I do not see a comment or question there, Brad, but thank you very much for that. Appreciate your support. Justin, poor Justin. Justin, our USF fan, says Charlie Strong ruined my program. Well, I'm sorry. I think you might find some company with some Texas fan friends. If there are any Texas fans still out there listening to this channel for whatever reason, you might be able to commiserate a little bit there. But I'm sorry, Justin. I appreciate you still being here, though. Justin's always rocking with the channel, man. That's my guy. Justin always in here with the buzzer beaters, and that's probably going to be. Oh, Nick's got the buzzer beater. Nick's got the buzzer beater here, so I will get to Nick's comment in just a moment. was going to go just scroll down my note sheet here real quick too to make sure there wasn't something like major that I'm missing. I really didn't even get a chance to read you guys a lot of the direct wording from some of these articles, but you get the gist. You get the gist of what has been going on with all of these. We've covered most of the ground with the questions or comments tonight. There's just reaction out there all over the place. I may, depending on how things go tomorrow, try and get you like more in depth on what is specifically being said and reported out there, like standalone videos. So make sure, once again, if you're in here and you are not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Click that subscribe button. I'm going live multiple times a week, typically Wednesday and Sunday. This week, throwing in extra shows with everything going on, but you'll typically get a live show Wednesday and Sunday. Some other content there too. All things conference realignment, all things college football and college basketball. Get it from a Big 12 perspective here on this channel. You can also like the video. I would really appreciate that. If you leave a comment in the comment section of the video as you exit here, I would appreciate that very much as well. Typically, you can hit me up on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4 too, but I'm a little dubious about that right now because I had some weird login activity from my Venmo account, so it has been temporarily suspended while I get all that figured out. But anyway, that's typically the laundry list that I've got to tell you about here on the channel. Nick Nicholson chiming in again. Thank you for your support, Nick. You're the man. Nick says Florida State and Clemson would become big fish rather than getting lost amongst the Sharks in the SEC or the Big Ten. They might prefer similar dollars to the Power 2 without the risk of fading into obscurity behind other powers. A man can dream. Hey, I like it, Nick. I like the out of the box thinking, and I see your pitch there. I think your pitch also, I would throw this in, that this would also be, we're talking about who knows what's going to happen over the next decade. We're talking about over a decade later when their grant of rights will be coming up. If you have Oregon and Washington in the league somehow for that long period of time, maybe the Big 12 builds up more of a reputation and stable footing, and everybody is a little bit more kumbaya, and that becomes a more attractive option there where they could say, hey, we'll be higher up the food chain here and the money will be pretty similar. Still, I think they'd probably want to be in the conference with their rivals. Both of those schools that you mentioned have rivals, arch rivals that are in the SEC. So I think there are a lot of reasons why that would still be more appealing. But, dude, it's hard to predict 10 days from now what's going to happen. Who knows if someone asked me, over under 10 days, Arizona joined the conference. We don't know what's going to happen in 10 days, let alone 10 years. So I will let you dream, Nick. I am not going to stop your dream. Far be it from me. Far be it from me to shut down your dream. So you keep dreaming, man. I dig it. I like it. I like it. I like it. Burke, what's up, Burke? My guy, Burke Family 54 Comics. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel if you are into comics. Burke's a good dude. Says from one K-State grad to another, congrats on the success. Also, finally nice to see the Big 12 positivity. Indeed, my man. Indeed. Burke and I go back to the good old K-State journalism school. Go K-State journalism school. But I appreciate it, man. Sincerely appreciate it. Thank you for being here. SDSU Aztec, from an Aztec who appreciates you. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for that, man. Like I said over and over again, I feel bad for San Diego State. I just did on my drive home today. I did a hit on the John and Jim show out in San Diego. It's my guy John Schaefer out there who does really good work. He does awesome work. You should definitely be listening to his show, SDSU Aztec. You're probably already aware of him. I'm sure you are. He also has a YouTube channel. I should shout him out. Go find John Schaefer's YouTube channel. I'm forgetting exactly what it's called, which is my fault. But he is going to get you updated on everything San Diego State out there. So make sure you go follow him as well. And I'm hoping for the best for you guys. Sincerely hope for the best for you guys. Whew. Okay. Couple marathon shows here back to back, everybody. I think I'm going to dip out with that. You all have been incredibly generous, incredibly fun and exciting here tonight, the last 2 days. What a time to be alive. What a time to be a college football fan. And look, selfishly as a Big 12 fan, it's a lot better time than it has been at other points. So I am at least relishing in that. A little bit more excited being on this side of it. Again, like the video, spread the word about the channel. A lot of new people in here. Tell your friends and family if they're college football fans, if they're into realignment, if they're into the Big 12, if they're into college football in general. Let them know about the channel. Spread the word on social media, your Twitter accounts, your Instagram accounts, Facebook groups for your team, Facebook groups for your conference, whatever it might be. Get the link out there. Get the word out there about this channel. Let's continue growing it. We shot past 17,000 subscribers within the past 24 hours, which is awesome. And I appreciate all of you immensely, immensely for that. All right. That's going to do it. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll see. We'll see when the next time is. I'll be talking to you live or with just some pre-tape content. It's probably not going to be too far away. Worst case scenario, you should get a live show on Sunday. So until then, I will see you later. Thank you.